I still feel the chill from that night as though it's been frozen into my bones. Every detail is etched so deeply into my mind that no amount of time can erase it. It's been nearly 2 years, but not a day goes by when I don't think about it. Even now, just writing this feels like revisiting a nightmare. But I have to tell someone. I have to get it out of my head. It was a cold, early Sunday morning. I had plans to meet my friends for breakfast. Casey, Jana, Mandy, and Evan. We'd all been close since freshman year, and the weekend breakfast had become a tradition. I was supposed to move into their house a few months prior, but something about that place didn't sit right with me. There was always this looming sense of dread whenever I visited, a knot in my stomach that I couldn't shake. So when I had the chance, I backed out, telling them it was because of money, but it wasn't. That morning I was restless. I texted Casey to check if everyone was awake, but I didn't get a response. I tried Jana next, then Mandy, and even thought about calling Evan, but nothing. The silence was strange. We'd been planning this breakfast since Friday. A gnawing sense of unease settled in my gut, but I brushed it off. Maybe they were all still getting ready. I jogged to their house. It wasn't far from my dorm, and the streets were eerily quiet. When I got there, I knocked on the door. No answer. I knocked again, louder this time, but still nothing. After the third time, I decided to use the key they'd given me. As soon as I opened the door, a wave of metallic, sour air hit me like a wall. I remember feeling my throat tighten, but I pushed the sensation down and stepped inside. The house was silent, too silent. I stood in the entryway, calling their names, but all I got back was the creak of floorboards under my feet. That smell was getting stronger, and my pulse quickened as I moved toward the staircase. The moment I reached the top, I saw her, Mandy, lying halfway out of her bedroom door, her body crumpled, her skin pale. Blood had soaked through her clothes and was pooling around her. For a second, I couldn't move. It was as if the air had been sucked out of my lungs. I wanted to run, but something inside me wouldn't let me leave. My friends, where were they? I bolted up to Casey's room, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. I shoved the door open, and what I saw still haunts me. Blood everywhere. The walls, the bed, the floor. It was like stepping into a nightmare, something too horrific to be real. I didn't need to look closely to know that no one in that room was alive. Without thinking, I turned and ran. I ran so fast I don't remember much except the sound of my footsteps pounding against the pavement, the burning in my chest, and the icy wind slicing through the November morning. By the time I reached my dorm, my body was shaking uncontrollably. I grabbed my phone to call the police, but then I froze. What if they thought I did it? I was the last person to see them. I had a key to the house, and I found them. I'd watched enough crime shows to know how this would look. Panic gripped me harder than ever. My mind raced, but I couldn't think straight. I told myself I'd call later, but deep down I knew I wouldn't. The weight of what I'd seen, the blood, the lifeless faces of my friends, pressed down on me. I couldn't tell anyone, not right away. When someone texted me asking if I'd heard from Jana, I lied. I told them no, that I hadn't seen or heard anything. I felt sick as the lie left my lips, but fear kept me trapped in that moment. Later that day, someone else found the bodies. A surviving roommate had returned and called the police. By then, the house was swarmed with officers and neighbors. My friends' lives were plastered on every news outlet, their names etched into a tragedy no one would forget. I was relieved that I didn't have to explain myself, but the guilt never left me. It's a shadow that follows me, a constant reminder of that morning. I wish I could have saved them, or at least had the courage to speak up. But I didn't, and now, no matter how hard I try, I can't forget. I never will.